Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay today. It is 9:24 in the morning. As far as I know, I'm going to the Left Forum. Bus leaves late tonight. And so I'm getting these shows out of the way now. There's something. Oh, by the way, Jordan Sheridan is coming onto the show. I'm going to get the exact date. I can't remember off the top of my head because I wasn't prepared to announce it, but he's going to be on the show. Apparently Door is going to be on the show. Ron the Clone hit me up the other day on Twitter and asked me if I wanted to be on his show, so I'm going to be on his show with Ron. That's going to be next week. This should be an interesting few weeks in regards to the people who are going to be on the show, and Abby Martin is going to be here June 7th. This is immensely up my station, so beyond my station, so I would say that. But is what it is. I asked, and they said yes. It's funny. Before I go fully into the show, it's funny. It's a morbid show, but I'm talking about stuff that's happening behind the scenes. I did a show on the TYT thing because I hated what they did, that video, the black man thing. I had qualms about that because I wasn't necessarily sure if I was right in doing that show, and I had certain pangs of. It's not that I'm wrong in what I'm saying. What I'm saying is right. At least I think it's right. It's my disposition. It's my perspective. It's what it is. It's a perspective. Bringing Anna's Iranian heritage into it, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have did it. I wasn't wrong. The thing is right. It's not so much that I'm wrong about it. It's maybe too much. Maybe too much. But however, I asked my wife. I was like, take a look at this. And what do you think about this? This is too much. This is too far. And I was explaining to her why I did it. I mean, they made a video about a black man selling out other black men, making the point that all of this thing was done for cash and this other stuff, completely stripping of the agency in this odd way that kind of gives this air of these darkies should have voted for Hillary Clinton, and this guy telling them not to vote for somebody other than Hillary Clinton is such a bad thing, and this is how they do you. As if the Democratic Party wasn't fucking over blacks, and if the Democratic Party wasn't using blacks, and if the Democratic Party was doing something different. I hated the show, and I thought the show was entirely based in race. And so when I kind of brought up the whole thing of, you're calling this guy Uncle Tom when you have an Armenian sitting on the stage who's taking money under a banner called the Young Turks, yeah, I meant it from the standpoint of it's pot called and cut a black. You're using race in this kind of thing. My wife was like, I don't see anything wrong with it. My wife is one of those people who would absolutely enthusiastically say, what the fuck are you doing? And this seems beyond the pale because she thinks I'm too sure of myself. Long story short, I thought, I was like, after that video, I sent him a thing saying, look, if you don't want to appear on the show because of it, I understand. I sent it to Ron too. I said, if you guys don't want to appear on this show because of that, Door seemed to get a little annoyed with me by that, and it's like, I'm my own man, and people can have their debate, they have their own decisions. Nobody has put a hook in me in this way. I appreciate that, and I realized from my perspective, I wasn't necessarily looking at it as they had hooks in them. I don't think I would like Door if I thought people had hooks in them. I was looking at it more so from the perspective of, I don't want to fuck up something that you guys have. He didn't take it that way. He took it as, I'm my own person. Nobody tells me what to do. So I thought that was cool. And And so he's going to be on the show. But let me get to this one. This video is chilling. Honestly, it's chilling, or at the very least it should be. All of those people screaming about Trump and Russia, all these Russophobes and xenophobes after the election, all of these humanitarian liberals in a humanitarian way concerned about other races and groups. So they're perfectly okay with murdering a bunch of those races and groups from the standpoint of a humanitarian reason. This should chill people to the bone. We find out in an interview with Bashar Assad that Moscow had to some degree talk Russia or talk the United States down because the United States had planned a much wider and wide range attack. And Russia had made the point that any wide range attack will be followed by a wide range attack from us. Meaning if you do this, we will respond and we will destroy the edifice that you've used to do this. This, according to Bashar Assad, was part of the reason that the attack that the United States and the Western powers did was far more scaled down than what the original intention of the attack was. That's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. That's no difference, by the way, than the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, granted, the Cuban Missile Crisis was more drawn out and you had more people who were competent. But it's the same thing. You're talking about a military nuclear conflict between the United States and Russia. You're talking about a war, a large scale, to some degree, you can call it a world war. And are you sure you're going to win it? And even if you do win it, what does the world look like? And is it really a win? Let's take a look at this video. I don't see. I mean, yes, it's probably true. I mean, the United States had said it was going to attack if XYZ took place, and they were waiting for the opportunity to issue a large-scale attack. Would I be shocked that there was communications between Moscow and the United States, maybe in some kind of back and forth or some kind of back channel where they're talking, saying, if you do this, this is how we will respond, and the people on that day didn't want to see the end of the world? No, I wouldn't be shocked by it. Is it possible that Bashar Assad is making this more of this than what it is? Yes, that's also possible. But we do know the events on the ground were somewhat tense. We do know that the United States was talking about having this kind of response. And at this point, the only thing he's really saying is that the response was scaled down so the United States wouldn't trigger the end of the world. Let's take a look at the article. This is by RT, which is kind of why I make the point that this is the Russian perspective of this. This is Bashar Assad saying his perspective. The question becomes, is Bashar Assad saying this because of direct knowledge that Vladimir Putin told me that he had a conversation with the Americans, etc., etc., or is this his understanding of events on the ground? Either way, it's his perspective, and the perspective itself, it resembles reality. Let's say it that way. It resembles reality, or at the very least, it's probable reality. We were close to direct conflict between the United States and Russia inside of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said Moscow deterred the West from launching a devastating countrywide airstrike last month and believes that Damascus has nearly won the 7-year war despite continued U.S. interference. With every move forward, the Syrian army and political process, and for the whole situation, our enemies and our opponents, mainly the West, led by the United States and its puppets in Europe and other regions, try to make it farther, either by supporting more terrorism, bringing more terrorists to Syria, or hindering the political process, Assad told RT correspondent Murad, oh God, I can't pronounce that, in a sit-down interview in Damascus, noting that without outside funding, his opponents inside the country would be subdued within a year. This is something that I've made a point. And by the way, me pointing this out is not Assad is a good guy. It has nothing to do with Assad being a good guy. I find all these people to be monsters to some degree. That said, monsters can say things that are true at times. Without the United States giving weapons and munitions and resources to the terrorists in that part of the world, just somewhat of as a flat fact, this will be over with. All the hand-wringing about the number of people that have been dying and everything else, this would have been over with years ago, had we not added interference, trying to essentially put in forces and munitions and weapons and resources to terrorists in that part of the globe. Let's keep going. I don't care whether he's a good guy or not. I care about whether or not he's telling the truth. And in this case, yeah, he is. Let's keep going. Russia deterred large-scale attack on Syria. The Russians announced publicly that they are going to destroy the bases that are going to be used to launch missiles and our information. We don't have evidence. We only have information, and that information is credible information that they were thinking about a comprehensive attack all over Syria, and that's why the threat pushed the West to make a much smaller scale, the president said. With Western advisors deployed alongside their proxy forces in Syria, Assad also thanked Russia for not triggering face-to-face confrontations with the United States, which operated in close proximity. It's like, hey, I want to thank our big brother for not getting us into a larger war. He's making the point that he believes this because he has credible evidence to believe this. Look, whether I have credible evidence to believe this or not, meaning whether I have overt sources, just from the incentive standpoint, it makes sense. The United States says we're going to have this kind of attack. They want to take Assad out that seat. Whether that's what Donald Trump wanted to do or not is kind of besides the point. The military itself had taken this disposition, or you could say Washington, or the thinking in Washington, wanted Assad out of the seat, while at the same token using ISIS and terrorists as a reason to do so. Well, if Russia comes in and says we are going to rip shit up if you launch a large-scale assault in Syria, he's making the point that says our sources, they have sources apparently, our sources tell us that they were planning a large-scale attack, and that attack scaled down into modest proportions when they believed that there would be a larger war triggered by it. That's not necessarily controversial. I would hope that that's good goddamn sense. If you know that what you're about to do is going to end the world, yeah, I would hope that there is somebody in Washington who says to himself, let's not do this. Let's not bring this about, especially since we're in that country illegally. I find this to be amazing because whether this is true or not, we do know that these guys have been in close proximity to one another, and that there have been Russians that have been killed in operations in that country. Mike Pompeo bragged about it, almost to the point of laughter, about the Russians being killed in operations by us, by our soldiers, our troops in that part of the globe. So we were at the brink of a larger war. Let that shit sink in. Let that sink in. I'll end it here. I don't want this one to be long. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. One last point, and I want to make this point before I leave the video because I want both of this to be within the same video. I don't care whether Assad is a good guy. I don't care whether Vladimir Putin is a good guy. I care about whether or not I want to use the resources of this particular country into creating some kind of military chaos and havoc across the planet and across the world. What we've been doing in those countries have not been to the good, and our intentions in this have not been noble and just, regardless of what the media tells you about this. We need to focus on issues at home. Donald Trump said he was going to make America great again, and this was America first. And right, still, troops are in Syria, and still, troops are taking operations in that part of the globe. Is he going to make America first? Or is he going to get into military conflicts with Syria and Iran, which is essentially what it looks like he's doing, including potential conflicts with Russia, trade wars with all these other nations? It doesn't seem like he's making America first. This has nothing to do with the person themselves. It has everything to do with our policies in those parts of the globe, and whether or not I want to use our munitions, our forces, our troops in order to make some kind of change in those countries that really is not to the betterment of those countries and is usually only for the interests of the West. And chaos has been the thing that has befallen the Middle East. Iraq, million dead. Libya, selling slaves. And the Ukraine right now, this kind of fomenting of the revolution in the Ukraine. They have Nazis running around in the Ukraine, killing journalists as we speak. Our influence, and I make the point of our influence from the standpoint is we are giving resources and weapons to those neo-Nazis in that particular part of the globe. Our actions have not been to the best. They have not been to the best. If Syria wants to change its society, have at it. It shouldn't be Saudi Arabia. It shouldn't be Turkey. It shouldn't be the United States. It shouldn't be Britain. It shouldn't be France. It shouldn't be all of these other nations. If Syria wants to do something, then God bless Syria. I don't want to have something to do with it. I don't want to instigate a war. None of those things end up helping people. In fact, all of this talk about helping this person or that person, those bombs murder everybody. So I'm going to end this here. The thing that people often do is try to make you hug the person when they completely miss the point, either intentionally or because they're not that bright. That it's not about hugging a particular leader of our country. It's about not wanting to be instigating or not wanting to get ourselves involved into those larger conflicts or those conflicts at all. Let them handle their own affairs. If we're going to make America great, let's make America great. Let's deal with our own issues here. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.